What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to episode 110 of the U.S.S. Enterprise D tutorial. I'm Zero Elite, and I just want to thank you very much for tuning in today's episode. And if you haven't, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, helping me in supporting the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. And of course, don't forget to join the Discord channel. I'll have a link in the description below. I've got a poll going on right now for my next ship build, so be sure to check that out. Once you join the Discord channel, you'll see the link on the tab on the left-hand side next build poll. I've accumulated a list based on the most popular requests that I've had on Minecraft or on my YouTube channel so far. So definitely check that out. Um, and of course, we're have a goal right now to hit 1,000 subscribers. And once we hit 1,000, I've got the 2016 USS Enterprise A refit from Star Trek Beyond that I'm going to be doing a tutorial for. I'm really looking forward to that. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into today's episode. We're actually going to be picking up right where we left off yesterday. We're going to be working on these seashells. We're just going to be doing exactly what I said that we're going to be doing, filling them in with a block of quartz for right now. If you want to fill these in with yellow, you definitely can. If you want to go with a gray, you can. You can go with any color that you want, because at the end of the day, make this ship build your own. Do what works for you. But I think right now I just decided to go with the white, and if I decide I want to change it, I could always go back and change it. It's really not that big of a deal. I think once we're done with this section, we've got just a tiny bit of detailing that we're going to be doing on the engines, and then I think the rest of today's episode will be focusing on getting our lounge windows in place for the saucer section, which is going to be pretty cool. Now, the windows that we're going to be adding in for the saucer section, we're really only going to be scratching the surface of what we're going to be getting into, because the Enterprise D, as I'm sure a lot of you know, has like 1,000,001 windows on it. Now, it's going to be virtually impossible for us to accommodate all the decks that it looks like the Enterprise D has on the outside. One of the things we'll be able to do when we add in our additional windows after we hit our lounges, we'll actually be able, we're going to add in a lot of facaded windows. And some people may think like, oh, well, just add in the windows you're going to be using. I'm telling you, trust me on this, when we add these windows in, it's going to help to make your ship look a little bit bigger on the outside and feel a lot larger to the correct scale. Because at the end of the day, my Enterprise D is only, I think it's 21 decks tall, and or it's either 20 or 21 or 20. I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it was 4 shy of the Enterprise E, and just half of what a real Galaxy class is supposed to be. So that should give you a scale comparison how big a Galaxy class truly is. As big as our ship currently is, it's really only half the size it needs to be, which is kind of insane when you think about it, because we have maxed out the render distance on Minecraft. We've already hit the past the render distance when you look at the ship from the front, because then the pylons and the cells, when you are looking at the ship from the bow, looking backwards, they start to get lost and you lose them. That's the only angle that happens to, though, on the ship. Every single other angle you can see it just fine, which I was pretty thankful for, because that was one thing that was really a priority for me when I built this, was that I wanted to build the whole, make it as big as I possibly could, but make it within render, so this way I could scale and proportion out the entire ship where I wouldn't have any area that is bigger or smaller than it needs to be. Um, One of my main things that I always do when I'm doing these things, I start off the saucer, and that's where it makes it or break it. You start with the saucer, you scale everything else off of the saucer. Um, you do that, you'll be in good shape. But today, let's go ahead and hop into these windows. Now, what you are going to notice, you won't see it today, but going forward when we add in the rest of our windows, well, you will, because actually we've already added in some of the back. some of the windows on the Enterprise D are going to be bigger, some of them are going to be smaller, and that's just going to kind of be the way that it works out for this thing. I wanted to have bigger windows on my lounges specifically because I wanted those, like as an example, when you're in 10 forward on the Enterprise D, it has pretty big windows in that room. There's slits, but they're pretty large. So that was kind of like my main reasoning behind it, where it was like, well, I want those same big windows. And you're probably thinking, like, if I'm putting my windows here, why don't I have a way to get down there? All in good time. We are going to be adding that stuff in. We haven't even done it yet, but in the not too distant future, we're going to be adding in a third level to our corridors. So on the corridors alone will be 3 decks high, but when you factor in the captain's yacht, that brings you to 4, and then the primary shuttle bay deck, that brings you to 5, and then bridge 6. So the Enterprise, on my Enterprise, the ship, the saucer section is actually 6 decks tall, which it's pretty big for me anyway. As far as the ships that I've built on here, it's definitely the biggest one that I've done so far. Now, we're not going to be doing it just yet on here. Right now, we just want to get our windows in place. But once we start to get our rooms together, we are going to make those angular windows that the lounges are known for that you see. Right now, I think my main focus is just getting the placement of where they're going to go there. We'll conquer getting the angle right once we get the rooms together. So that looks pretty good. Now, I'm pausing it here on purpose so those of you that you can get your placement right. So if we go off our very bottom oval here, you count out 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I think there's actually 6. I think that's actually technically 6 because it looks like there's a lip right there, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, there totally is a lip there, so that would be 6. Now, something else to consider is that the Enterprise D has multiple lounges. It has lounges upon lounges upon lounges. Like, if you watch Next Generation from beginning to end, not counting 10 forward, they show a variety of different lounges on the ship. And that's actually true. And there's a reason why 10 forward is called 10 forward, is because it's the 10th lounge in the forward section of the saucer. This is something I did not know until I actually went back and started doing research on the Enterprise D to find this information out, which is pretty cool. But we're not going to go super crazy like they did on the show, but we're still going to have our share of lounges. I think the way I'm going to end up doing this ultimately, I'm adding extra windows here on the sides, but I think I'm going to be breaking it up into 4 areas for lounges, counting what's going to be the mess hall. And that will all end up being on the entertainment deck, which is where these windows are. It's the very bottom of the saucer, not counting the captain's yacht. these windows might ultimately end up being facades, if anything. I could be wrong. It's no, I'm not wrong. I'm pretty sure because I haven't used these windows for anything. The ones on the sides. I think the main thing that you want to think about too when you're working on the interior of your ship is don't focus on filling in every single nook and cranny on your ship, because you will spend years trying to figure that out. Unless you just build multiples of the same room over and over again, which is something you can do if that's really what you want to do. I decided to go in a different direction for the interior on my Enterprise D, in the same direction that I've gone when I've done the interiors on my other ships. I focus on the moments, I focus on what you've seen in the shows or movies, and I try not to veer away from that unless I absolutely have to. Um, and even then, I try to stay within the spirit of it as much as I can. I try to, if I have to wing something or make something up, I try as much as I can to make it feel like it belongs in that era. But you don't see me doing too much of just complete fan fiction, in other words, on these ships unless I have no other choice. But yeah, definitely, focus on the stuff that you've seen in the show. This is something I've talked about too, when I say focus on the moments, that's what I'm talking about, because these moments in the different rooms that they showed on the shows and movies, this is what people remember. And if you have a bunch of just random stuff, that they're not going to remember that. Now, with that being said, there are some things that we've done on the Enterprise D that they just never got a chance to show on the series or movie that the Enterprise D was in, like the mall or primary shuttle bay from the inside. They showed it from the outside once with the door open, but you never went in. Um, and then so many sections of engineering and medical deck. There's so much of the ship that they never showed, but we can get. I think the Enterprise D is going to be like the one case where you can get away with that because they talk about it on the show. You hear so much about the scale of the ship with all these different areas. Um, the only downside with that, again, is that then we have to tap into our creativity and coming up with ways to build this stuff out that it feels natural. Now, we're going to get into that probably for the medical deck, I think, will be the main one that we're going to do, basically what I'm about to talk about. And I did this when I worked on both the um, Disco Era Enterprise and the 2016 Enterprise, Enterprise A. And that basically what I ended up doing for those two ships was that I took every single screenshot that I could possibly find of the interiors, more so for the 2016 Enterprise. But I took all the screenshots that I can find of a Constitution class of the interior for every single show, movie, animated, you name it, and I merged them together to come up with the most complete version of the interior that I possibly could. Now, where that's relevant to this build, I think what we can possibly do, because and I'm bringing this up for the reason, the medical deck. The medical deck is actually massive. It's an entire deck, and if you don't believe me, look it up on the show. Just what they show on TNG is just Beverly Crusher's office, um, or her medical bay, but there are um, facility upon facility upon facility on that deck, on top of the other science facilities that they have on a medical deck as well. So that's going to be something that where maybe once we build out Dr. Crusher's quarters, maybe what we could do to have a little bit of fun, reference some of the other medical decks from the Next Generation era, maybe look at what was done for maybe not Deep Space Nine, unless they had a medical bay that they showed from the Defiant, because I don't think Deep Space Nine itself was necessarily. It wasn't even a Starfleet vessel as far as what I remember. But if the Defiant had one, we can reference that a little bit. We could reference the Prometheus from Voyager. I know that they showed the medical bay for that ship, as well as Voyager itself. So there's some things. And what I'm getting at here too is that you can pick and pull elements from other ships on the interiors to enhance the ship's another ship's interior as well. There's nothing wrong with it because I've said this in the past, not a lot recently, but there's so little of these interiors that we've truly seen that it makes it impossible to fully flesh out these ships. So that's the main reason why I focus on the moments the way that I do, and where we have to, we can pull from other ships. We just might have to tweak it here and there to maybe make it work within this case a Galaxy class ship. But I think that's something that we're going to end up doing for the medical deck, um, at least for the medical bays. The labs, I don't know if we're going to necessarily have a problem with that because I know that there were a couple of episodes on TNG where they showed quite a bit of the labs. So I think I'll be able to get some good reference material with that. But I think that's what the plan is right now, that the top deck before we go up into the primary shuttle bay will be the medical deck slash science deck. So there'll be some pretty cool things on there. One of the things that we'll be able to definitely add, they never showed it on the show, but they had on the movie Astrometrics. The Astrometrics on the Enterprise D was pretty cool. I think out of all the ones that they ever showed, I think the only other one they ever actually showed was on Voyager. But the one the Enterprise D was hands down the coolest one. I'm actually looking forward to building out that Astrometrics. But yeah, there's a lot of cool things that we're going to be able to do on the Enterprise D. A lot of things I've been thinking about. One of the things I haven't actually worked on yet, I'm probably going to have to build at least one school or at least one classroom or something. I don't hold it against me if I don't get it done, but it's in the back of my head to do some of the stuff like that. But I'm thinking about the stuff that needs to go into the ship first before I add in any of the other stuff that I think that I would like to see in it. You know what I mean? Because again, I'm trying to stay true to the Galaxy class as much as I can. But you'd think that it would have that stuff for sure, like the schools and playgrounds, things like that. Because at the end of the day, you got 1,000 families living on board, so why wouldn't it? Yeah, see, even extending out the the red piece in the front of our engines here, it still looks a little stubby here in the front, and that could just very well end up being just the angle as well as Minecraft that it's making it look like that. Because I mean, when you look at it from the sides, it really doesn't look stubby at all, and that's ultimately going to be one of the reasons too that we're going to end up going over to the half slabs to try to eliminate that just a little bit if I can. I think what we're going to be doing here with adding that um, white concrete pinstripe, that's not going to work on the engines. Now, that is going to work on some other sections of the ship. We're going to be using that quite a bit with the lower hull, actually, because the Enterprise D actually has quite a bit of line work on the lower hull. I'm not even talking about the Aztecing, but it's got like a nice pattern going down the sides. We're going to do something similar to it, but not exact. I'm going to end up doing something kind of based off the lines that we already have previously existing. But if I can, I'll grab some screenshots to show you guys exactly what I mean when we get into that. We're kind of going all over the place here and there a little bit. I mean, sometimes that just happens when I'm working on stuff on the ships. Like I'll work on a section of the ship, then I'll go back to another section of the ship and kind of go back and forth here and there. That's why you see me jumping from we were working on the windows and we worked on the engines. Now we're back to working on the windows again. Um, what we're basically going to be doing right now is trying to get the placement of our lounges on the left side and the right side in the exact same placement as what we had in the front. You see now, I think we're going to be slightly veering away from that a little bit, because you can see that I had the straight row in the center, and then I ended up, instead of cutting out the 3 in the very center, I went off the sides. I want to say that we're going to change that. And that's why I paused there for a second, because I don't recall that my windows in the sides are actually like that. I think originally I was thinking like I just kind of want to try to do something different for the windows on the sides maybe, and not have exactly the same pattern of windows on every single angle that you look at the ship. Um, and that's something that's actually going to remain true, because I want to make sure that I have, while my patterns match up, I don't want them all to be exactly the same, because um, I want to have a little bit of variety in the outline or the outside of the ship as well. It'll look good. Um, I've actually got some screenshots of the windows up on the Discord channel. If you go under current build projects, you'll be able to check that out if you want to see how the windows turned out. I'm actually pretty happy with them. I think they came out great. They're exactly what I ultimately wanted, but I definitely use a combination of size and windows. I use the double wides for the lounges, and then I use some longer strips for the quarters, and then the lower hull I use the singles. I might end up doing some strips on the lower hull as well, but you'll see what I mean when we start building more of the windows. But like that's kind of how I have it classified. Is I have 3 different sets of windows, and I'm using for the Enterprise D, um, and it's worked out pretty good so far. You know, it's crazy staying on track with all this stuff, because it really can be a pretty big undertaking, and it's been a huge undertaking on this build so far. There's so much work that I've already done, and there's so much work that we still have that we need to do on this thing. This is why I keep saying that I don't think I'm gonna end up doing another ship this big again. I think I'm gonna end up going back to the size that I was doing before, on the lines of my Constitution classes and the Cerritos. That's something that I can do in a couple of months of videos, and I can move on to something else. But you never know. Um, I've also been working on this thing for a year, so I'm kind of just not trying to think about working on another build this size again. But that's not to say I won't do it. You never know. If maybe if I decide on the Enterprise Z, or if I end up doing Deep Space Nine at some point, I might decide that I need to go big with those. But we'll see. We'll cross that bridge once we get there. We're just going to focus on the Enterprise D right now, but I think that's going to wrap us up today. Just want to thank you all again for tuning in today's episode. And if you did enjoy this content, please help me out. Hit that like and subscribe button, helping me in supporting the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. And new subscribers, don't forget to hit notifications on, so you can always get notified when those new videos drop. And speaking of new videos, you can always catch my new Minecraft episodes dropping Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays at 7 p.m. Of course, be sure to join the Discord channel. I'll have a link in the description below. I have a poll going on right now for the next ship build. Also, if you could help me out, share my channel. I'd really appreciate that. I've got a goal right now to hit 1,000 subscribers. Once I hit 1,000, I'm going to be doing a tutorial on the 2016 Star Trek Beyond Enterprise A. So I'm really looking forward to that. I had a lot of people ask me for that build, and I will commit to it as soon as we hit 1,000 subscribers. So that's definitely going to be happening. Anyway, I just want to thank you all again for tuning in today's episode. I hope everybody has a happy and safe weekend, and I'll catch you on the next episode. And of course, what did you make in Minecraft today? Let me know in the comments section.